Welcome to the Wow MD podcast, where in each episode you will get in 30 minutes or less valuable pearls about holistic wellness, anti-aging, hormone therapies, beauty trends, and other facts you should know about our medical healthcare system and your health that no one is telling you. My name is Dr. Mirala Chernayanu. I am a conventional board-certified OBGYN physician who, after the loss of my father due to a careless and uncaring medical team, decided to retrain and seek certification in anti-aging and restorative therapies. What I know, I am happy to share with you. Welcome back to another episode of the Wellness Optimizing Warrior MD podcast. In today's episode and the next weeks, I will dive deeper into the health insurance market, health insurance expenses. Hopefully, we'll provide you with a much clearer view of what you should consider when you budget your health expenses in general. In the last episode, I recapped how important self-care is for optimal well-being, and I made the point that if most of us will engage in daily self-care regularly, we would likely be healthier and require less expensive medical services. Does that mean that our healthcare expenses are going to be lower? Not necessarily, and probably far from it. Unfortunately, us getting healthier has nothing to do with the forces that drive the health insurance market. And many people do not understand that, and I don't, and I didn't for a long time either. But it's a business, just like any other business. It's a market. How many people understand the market? How many people understand the economy? You have to be a specialist and have an education in that to understand it. I understand part of it because I'm in the middle and in the thick of it as a physician accepting health insurance plans. So, bottom line, any treatment in today's day and age for a serious illness, trauma, or cancer will require very expensive tests for diagnosis and very expensive treatments and medications, possibly surgery as well, whose price is determined by usually the big pharma companies and the hospital corporation. And that's driving a huge surge in medical expenses and medical costs. I spoke in the past, last year, I believe, at the beginning of the year, of hospitals being in network, but hiring doctor groups ran by corporations who intentionally chose to be out of network so they can bill the true value of what they believe their services should cost and not be confined by the health insurance in-network low reimbursement, which is they really lowball you. So I don't blame them. And this is something many people have come face to face with as they have gotten their bills from their hospitalist, their anesthesiologist, their ICU doctor, etc. Obviously, this definitely should be regulated in some form of a law, but it isn't. If you're smart and feisty, I guess you can request and perhaps be allowed the in-network lower rate. But many are not aware of this. They just don't ask for it. They just don't want to go broke or be sent to collections or taken to court to pay the bills. So they just pay or go in debt paying the medical bills. The truth is, no one is thinking about saving for health expenses. Honestly, many cannot save anything because their payment for the health insurance premium is already too high for their budget. But they have to have it. Like the patient that I mentioned in the last episode, who very sadly admitted her family's insurance monthly premium was higher than the mortgage. And again, this is California. Homes are more expensive than anywhere else in the U.S. So she was paying so much that there was not enough money left to spend on anything medically that was not covered by the health insurance. And many, if not almost everyone, believes health insurance is going to keep them healthy. And this could not be further from the truth. Many wait for Medicare to save them, and they believe they're covered by Medicare. But Medicare requires a 20% coinsurance, meaning you have to cover the remaining 20% because Medicare only covers 80%. And that is costing many close to $1,000 a month if they want PPO insurance as a secondary. This is another thing I noticed that, and I was in the same group, many people believe that the secondary insurance, if you're on Medicare, the secondary will cover whatever Medicare will not cover. I hear that a lot every day. Oh, don't worry, doc. I have Medicare, but my secondary, it's excellent. It's Blue Cross Blue Shield. This is where you're wrong. I found out quite recently that if Medicare declines a medical service as not covered by Medicare, the secondary PPO, even though you've paid an arm and a leg for it, will decline that medical service. Apparently, there are exceptional circumstances in which a plan will actually cover something not covered or declined by Medicare. And the secondary always wants to know that the primary declined it and why, and then they will probably give a decline service as well. So what can we, the normal people who need health insurance, but also need to stay healthy to avoid using and needing the health insurance, what can we do? Well, it has been clear to all the private doctors or privately owned small groups of doctors for a very long time what and how the healthcare cost issues are impacting the patients. Because when you as a physician are involved in a day-to-day operations cost analysis, profit analysis of the medical practice, you are an owner or co-owner of it, then you understand the financial burden because you get confronted with it because you're in the middle of it. When your patients can't pay, you find out why pretty quickly. So you understand the burden the patients have and the objections that are brought on a daily basis by people who come into the office debating and arguing for their healthcare expenses, except they debate and argue with the wrong people. If you go and see a doctor who is employed, someone who works 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., most doctors do that nowadays, but believe me, if you're your own boss, you work much longer hours. Your work starts earlier because you have a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, and then your work is always later than 5:30 because you have stuff to catch up on. But if you go to see a physician who's employed, who's paid a salary, a physician who, or mid-level, who is told exactly how many patients they need to see a day, how much time is allowed for each patient, and a doctor who can only recommend therapies that are approved by your health insurance plan, please be aware that these providers will not see, will not understand or feel your pain. They are completely removed and isolated from the process of billing, collecting, and considering healthcare expenses. They don't know anything about it. They don't worry much if you don't show up for the follow-up appointment because you couldn't afford it. The front office will keep their schedules so full, they barely have time to cope with day-to-day. And they barely have time to click all the boxes that the EMR, the electronic medical record, is demanding for proper documentation. They will not have the ability or the energy or the time to spend caring about your health or lack of health. They will not have time to spend on education or on how you need to be guided out of the path of getting deeper and deeper into inflammation, metabolic decline, or serious illness, because they really have to run to the next patient. You do have, in today's day and age, to educate yourself on all matters regarding your health, how to maintain it, how to remove yourself or stop the path of decline and aging, and how to come back to optimal well-being. And you have to do that by being your own advocate rather than waiting for the doctor to tell you what to do. That is a very old, archaic model we need to move out of. You have the internet, you have multiple available options to educate yourself, and you should know if you want to use your health insurance plan to cover some of your expenses, the basics of what your plan covers, and you should enter each doctor's office prepared for your copay and prepared to probably be told that you have a bill, which is reflecting your coinsurance and your deductible after each visit. So when you come back at the next visit, there'll probably be a bill waiting for you. I have spoken about these numbers before. They're very important. I will remind them to you here very briefly. And I try to do that any chance I have because they're so important when it comes to healthcare expenses. And I honestly can't believe that today there are so many people who use their insurance card, their health insurance card, without any knowledge of these main 4 numbers that they need to know and which come with their plan. And honestly, if you take anything from this podcast episode, is these 4 numbers that you need to write them somewhere, hopefully on your cell phone, because everyone has their cell phone chained to their pocket, to their wrist, to their purse. It's on you all the times. And these 4 numbers are your copay, your co-insurance, your deductible, and your maximum out-of-pocket cost. Let me just spend 2 minutes talking about these 4 numbers. What is the copay? Well, pretty much all medical practices, privately owned, big corporations, it doesn't matter. They all demand payment upfront for your copay. So very simply put, your copay is what you have to pay every time you see a doctor. It doesn't matter that your doctor is seeing you for a simple refill, for a follow-up visit, for a blood pressure check, for a B12 shot, for a pre-op appointment, for an OB visit. It doesn't matter. Every time you step into the doctor's office for a medical service, if you want to use your insurance plan and bill the visit, you have to pay the copay. And the number for your copay is determined by the health insurance plan you chose. The second number is your coinsurance. And your coinsurance is a percentage of the healthcare cost of the medical service you receive that will be your responsibility. The coinsurance can be as low as 10% and as high as 40%. I don't think I've seen one at 50% yet. That means whatever health expense you have, whether it's a visit, a diagnostic procedure, a surgery, a hospital admission, it will cost you 10, 20, 30, or 40% of what the negotiated rate for that specific plan is for that test, for that procedure, for that treatment. The lower tier and the cheaper plan you choose, the more expensive and higher your coinsurance will be. Likely a bronze tier plan will have a 40% coinsurance, a silver tier will have the 30%, a gold tier will have 20%, and the platinum plan, which very few can afford nowadays, unless your employer is sponsoring it, it's about 10% coinsurance. And why does this matter? Well, it matters because 40% of $100,000 is $40,000. So if you have a $500,000 bill and you have a 40% bill, technically it would be $200,000, but that's where you need to remember that you actually have a maximum out-of-pocket cost. And that's your savior. I'll get to that in a minute. But remember the deductible. That's your third number. The deductible is the amount that you have to pay before your healthcare insurance plan will pay any expenses, regardless of the copay and regardless of your coinsurance. Obviously, your copay and coinsurance will count towards your deductible, but you probably know that deductibles can be as high as $5,000 or as low as $200. At $5,000, the only way you will meet that deductible is if you have a serious illness, trauma, surgery, God forbid, some kind of cancer will cross your path and you need expensive services. And that is why the deductible is there to insulate the insurance company from very expensive services. So part of it will be burdened onto you. Again, the number 4 number, last but not least, the maximum out-of-pocket cost. This is a predetermined by law, limited amount of money. Let's call it the ceiling that you must pay before your insurance will pay 100% of in-network healthcare expenses for the remainder of the year. For example, in 2026, the maximum out-of-pocket is $10,600 for an individual and $21,200 for 2 family members. So remember the example I gave you earlier that 40% of $100,000 is $40,000? Well, thanks to the maximum out-of-pocket cost being plateaued at this $10,600 for 2026, you would only have to pay $10,600. But that's $10,600 on top of whatever you pay for your premium. And there are people paying $1,500 to $2,000 a month on their premium. So they're already paying $20,000 or more a year. And that means if you have health expenses, now you're $30,000 out. So in an ideal world, A patient would come in, ask for a medical service, receive it. The medical practice would generate an encounter. It will be billed to the insurance company, and the payment will be awarded to the doctor within 2 weeks. In an ideal world, your doctor will be paid fair and square by the insurance plan you chose. And in an ideal world, everything will be clear to you as far as what is covered and what's not covered from the moment you check in at the front until you receive the bill to pay the remainder of your coinsurance, deductible, maximum out-of-pocket, whatever that is. In an ideal world, there will be no haggling over copays or coinsurance or why do I owe money for a medical service when I use my insurance. In an ideal world, patients would promptly pay for services owed, and when they come to see the doctor again, find out that they have a balance on account which resulted from the insurance being billed and the insurance pushing additional financial responsibility on that patient according to their plan. In an ideal world, the patient will simply pay and not argue or haggle over, well, why do I have to pay? I haven't got the bill yet. I don't believe I have to pay until I see it and I read it and I understand why. Well, we can tell you why. We have the data. Now, we do not live in an ideal world. There's always some haggling over cost. Sometimes when I hear what the girls at the front have to go through, it feels like we're at a bazaar where people argue and negotiate. It is embarrassing for the medical staff to sometimes have to pull the doctor out of a room to deal with the patient because they refuse to pay their bill, but they still want to be seen. And it happens sometimes quite often. Now, we understand that there is a financial burden on all the patients, but similarly, there's a financial burden on the medical practice, and I'll tell you more about that in a few minutes. So many, if not all patients, have really no idea why they come to the doctor and are confronted with a copay or a balance on their account. But let me explain why this balance on your account happens when you come to see the doctor. By the time the super bill is generated for the whatever medical service you had, it could take a few days, sometimes to a few weeks. The billing department will receive it, will process it, and the insurance plan will review it, will approve it, deny it, might request some additional information, will put it on hold. Sometimes this is weeks or months. Once the biller receives the claim or the payment decision back, it will be posted to the account. The account doesn't receive claims that are still under review by the insurance company. But once the insurance company made a decision after reviewing the claim and it decides you owe the money owed will come back and will be attached to your account as money owed. The billing company that usually works for the physician will generate your bill once a month when they close their accounts. And then it takes another 1 to 2 weeks of the month. Consider it could take at least another week to get to you, 1 to 2 weeks for you to pay for it. By now, we're talking about 6 more weeks, and the doctor has already waited 6 to 12 weeks to get the payment. So is it fair to ask the doctor to continue your care and continue billing for services you receive when you are already in arrears and you show up at the practice and say, well, I don't really want to pay this bill or the balance on my account. I want to actually see the bill. Well, we can send you the bill right now. We can tell you what it is. It's not fair. The delay in paying the bill and the need to see the bill, if every single one of the patients who walks into the doctor's office would act like that and would need to wait to see the bill, it would really cripple the doctor's income flow, their ability to pay their staff. This is just a little bit of a side note, and I'm sorry if I sound like I'm complaining about this. I'm not. But the health insurance plan already made a determination on the responsibility and communicated with the doctor what the payment is for that date of service. Honestly, the patient should show respect for the doctor and the staff. And if it says, hey, you have a balance here of $200, they really should pay promptly. And I don't blame doctors who refuse to see a patient who has a balance. Ask them to reschedule and come back when they're ready and up to date with their balance. It might sound heartless, and somewhere I bet that there's a deep-rooted belief that doctors make a lot of money. They should simply practice medicine, not worry about costs. Doctor, just tell me how to get healthy, and I will figure out the rest. But doctors do not make a lot of money, and the ones in private practice have the responsibility of everybody else's paycheck and overhead before they pay themselves. And the reason why privately owned independent practices who accept your health insurance plans are dying is because of the very clear factors like lower reimbursement for services, delay in payments from the health insurance plan, more delay in payment from patients, the coverage for services the insurance plans are offering is very poor, which drives many patients to seek the doctor's services because they want the service. They believe it should be covered, but the insurance does not cover. And then there's a massive delay in them paying for it. And they literally sometimes clog the schedule. And again, they come with the hope that the insurance will cover the desired service. Let's just say hormone pellet therapy or an IV vitamin therapy. And it turns out that they don't. The office could simply book only the cash-paying patients who they know the cost, they pay promptly up front, they don't have to argue with anything. Here's our cost. You want to have it, the service, perfect, let's do it. And you add all of that to the rising cost of the workforce, the medical supplies, the medical malpractice. I wonder how long there will be private practices who are able to accept health insurance plans. Now, if you, the patient, will spend the time it takes to become educated in these matters, it will make the medical staff life so much easier. Obviously, there are a huge majority of patients who are so grateful for the results. They love the outcome. They simply just come in and they say, hi, oh, okay, I owe $200, no problem. Let me just pay it. Please use my card on file, right? They don't even ask what they're paying for. They're so happy. But there are patients who ask 10,000 questions. Sometimes they ask the same question over and over again, even if the information has been provided. And there are patients who seem to refuse to understand they have to pay, even though they've had the service, and they still expect to receive medical care the same day they refuse to pay the balance on their account. Now, it is frustrating to the physicians and to the staff because we're already busy taking care of patients. We don't really have time to properly educate our patients about these healthcare issues. Very few doctors have podcasts like I do. Very few doctors decide to talk about this on social media. It's not sexy, right? Nobody wants to talk about this. This sucks. But I would like for you to understand what are the most important factors contributing to two serious things. The decrease in covered services and benefits, which has happened in the past 10 years, as well as the increased financial burden on yourself, the healthcare insurance plan customer, the buyer. And there are four of these factors, and I'm going to discuss the three because I'll go over these three pretty quickly. The fourth might need a little bit more commentary. I'll do it next week. But the first one is the implementation of the Healthcare Affordable Act. It changed the face of health insurance business in a way that is extremely profound. It has shaped the health insurance market and the healthcare market for the past probably almost 20 years, and it's done so insidiously and gradually. And if you don't believe me, just ask Google AI for some facts about what did this cost 20 years ago, what does it cost now, and you'll see what I'm talking about. There has been, number two, there has been a huge, and I mean huge, increase in monthly health insurance premiums in the past 10 years. Obviously in the past 20 years, but in the past 10 years, it's been drastic. And it is leaving many people crippled financially, especially if they're over the fifth or sixth decade of their life. They're sexagenarians, octogenarians. They realize they need health insurance, but they can't afford it. And that's very scary because, again, Medicare covers 80%. You need the rest of the 20% either pay cash or you have a secondary. Now, a third very important factor impacting the healthcare market at this point is the significant decrease in covered medical services. This is impacting you, and it's impacting the doctors who accept your plans. Even medical services covered in the past on the same plan are now considered no longer covered simply because the plan decided to change its rules and regulations overnight just like that. Wait a minute, how can they do that, you might say? Well, they have the power. And by buying their plan without asking any questions, by just renewing your insurance without doing any due diligence or inquiry into whether or not you will have the same coverage for the services you had last year, will you be covered? Will you not be covered? Sometimes you really have a rude awakening one day. You realize what used to be a benefit is no longer a benefit. Why is this happening? Well, the healthcare insurance business is absolutely ruthless. You and others who are their clients are simply numbers on a spreadsheet. The top executives, directors only care about the cost and profit analysis. I got to be honest with you, I'm a business owner, and most of us doctor business owners envy their ruthlessness. It makes things so much easier and so much more profitable if you're ruthless. But bottom line, when it comes to health insurance plans, they are a business. They have to make a profit. Now, do they have to make a ridiculously huge profit, like billions of dollars? Well, I don't know. That's an interesting debate. They look at their cost, which is how many services they have to cover. And the profit will really come very simply from how many medical services and procedures they deny or they don't have to cover, and how many clients buy the expensive health insurance premium and pay it every month without ever needing to use it. That's how they get profitable. So please don't believe that your denial for a service or procedure is individually discussed. There's no name, there's no face, there's no story to go with a denial. Usually, probably there's a software which is set to detect and deny services automatically that doesn't match their codes, or they're over a certain threshold. It's like alarm, too expensive. So gotta have somebody review this. And whatever guidelines is programmed to follow. And then obviously there will be individual claim adjusters or claim handlers or reviewers, which are usually some form of a medical health professional. And they probably won't get paid and won't make any bonuses if they approve 100% of all the medical services, even if they're justified. So they got to find some kind of loophole to deny some services for some clients, period. There's rules and regulations. These are plans. And trust me, they make those rules and regulations when you sign up for their plan so nicely and so well. And it's probably a whole booklet of them. There's like hundreds of pages that you're never going to read. So they build themselves so many loopholes that it's easy to pretty much deny. And again, this is a business to your health insurance plan. Do not be deceived by the commercials which are targeting you to choose their plan versus another plan. And honestly, there's no humanity in how expensive these premiums have become and how little they cover. And there is no secret that there's no love lost between patients and their health insurance, and especially between doctors and health insurance plans. Now, I only accept major PPO health insurance plans and Medicare because I want to allow as many patients as possible to come and benefit from my knowledge and expertise, and I want to help people. I want to help as many people as I possibly can. I don't want to practice and help only those who can afford me. But solo practitioners and small group practices that are privately owned, not by corporations and not by private equity firms, they're being pushed more and more in the direction which makes financial sense, which is go cash only, out of network, name your price, and remove and peel all the layers of insanity and bureaucracy and ridiculousness and simplify everything. And every year it gets harder and harder to keep going. And I will tell you more about the why in the next week's episode. And as far as accepting insurance, I personally promise I can hold on as long as I can. But based on the current outlook, and again, I'll tell you more about this in next week's episode, I really forecast my commitment to last until the end of 2026. I really am debating whether I want to continue taking insurance in 2027. And I will tell you more about why I'm hesitating to continue accepting insurance in next week's episode. So please join me then. And I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you learned something, because the whole purpose of the episode is to educate and raise awareness of some issues that impact doctors' practices, medical staff offices, as well as you, the patient, when it comes to healthcare expenses. Thank you for trusting me with your time, and thank you for listening to today's episode. If the content I provided wowed you, was helpful and valuable to either you or someone close to you, please do me a favor and leave me a review. I am very open and welcome any kind of feedback as well as suggestions on any content ideas, so please forward those suggestions to Jessica, my patient care coordinator, through our website, herabeautyandwellness.com. And I look forward to our time together next episode.